Good evening, everybody. My name is Lynn Hunt, and I'm the chair of Southern Health Foundation Trust. I need to let you know a few housekeeping arrangements for the evening. This meeting will be recorded, and we will share the recording on our website. During this event, all attendees, so that's you online, you will be on mute unless you are presenting during the evening. With regard to social media, we will be tweeting tonight. And if you wish to join in, please tag us at Southern_NHSFT and use the hashtag SHFTAMM20. Or letters. If you have any general questions during the evening about the issues that we're either showcasing or talking about, please do use the chat bar, typing in lowercase, and we will do our best to respond. Tonight is the opportunity for us to reflect on the last year and also to look forward to the future. We've put together a programme of live presentations and pre-recorded videos to give you a flavour of some of the work that's been happening during the last year, with a particular focus on celebrating our partnership work. On behalf of the Trust, we express our deep sadness on the passing of Her Majesty the Queen. Our heartfelt condolences and thoughts are with the royal family at this time. We pay tribute to Her Majesty, who devoted her life to public service, which she carried out with unwavering dedication over 7 decades. Colleagues in this Trust and across the NHS and care services work tirelessly to support our patients and communities, and through them we truly understand the meaning and importance of Her late Majesty's endeavours. The Queen frequently praised the courage and compassion of health staff and demonstrated genuine empathy to those suffering from ill health and other personal challenges. She will be greatly missed and fondly remembered. This evening's production has again, as it was last year, been delivered by Drop the Mask Productions, a community interest company, not-for-profit organisation specialising in IT and media for the third sector, whilst concentrating on employment and training for people with lived experience of mental illness. I'd like to highlight a few issues from our annual report. Firstly, my thoughts remain with everyone who's experienced challenge, loss, or trauma over the last 2 years, whether because of the pandemic or the increasing instability and uncertainty that is affecting so many people's lives. After over 2 years of dealing with the pandemic and the huge demands placed on the NHS, our staff and our communities, I want to reflect and say thank you. This period has been a stark reminder how vital the NHS, public and voluntary sectors are in supporting people at their time of greatest need. It has also highlighted why we must work in even more joined up ways to prevent ill health, tackle health inequalities and other factors which impact people's health, well-being and happiness. Thank you to our 6,500 staff for the incredible response and the compassion that they have maintained throughout the most difficult of times. I also would like to thank my colleagues on the Trust Board for their leadership, support and challenge to ensure we remain focused on what matters most to our people and communities and staff. I'm delighted to welcome Steve Tompkins as Chief Medical Officer and Eugene Jones as Chief Operating Officer, who joined this board this year, and also Dr. Kevin Cleary as a non-executive director. I would also like to thank colleagues who've moved on for their significant contributions. Dr. Carl Marlowe, Chief Medical Officer, Grant MacDonald, Chief Operating Officer, and non-executive directors Rob Goldsmith and David Monk. Despite the considerable challenges we've all faced, I am encouraged by the real progress the Trust has made to further develop our services and to do so in an ever increasingly collaborative way between people who use them, our staff and our partners. I am particularly indebted to Adrian Thorne, our lead governor, and our Council of Governors for their invaluable contribution in a myriad of ways to continuously challenge us and improve our services. With real progress being made in the last 12 months, strengthening partnerships across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, I am grateful to Lena Samuels, Chair of the Integrated Board, and my chair colleagues and other colleagues in all our partner organisations. As ever, I am hugely thankful for the people who use our services, their carers and families, who have given over their time and expertise to share their feedback and help in developing our services and improving them. Thank you. I'd now like to introduce to you Adrian Thorne, who I mentioned in my introduction. I understand that we have a video ready for him, so we carry on with that. Thank you.
Hello everybody, my name's Adrian Thorne. I'm the lead governor for Southern Health, as well as being a appointed governor for Carers Together. Firstly, I'd like to welcome you all to our annual members meeting this evening. Now, we all know that it's been a challenging year. We've had the pandemic, which has led to additional demand. We've got staffing problems in terms of recruitment and retention, and which mean that, you know, people are having to spend a lot of time doing different things over and above the day job. So I'd like to start by thanking a number of people. I'd firstly like to thank our board. I'd like to thank our chair, our NEDs, our executives for all the work that they've done in the last year in as what's been quite difficult situations at times. I'd certainly like to thank all of our staff. Our staff are our greatest asset without any doubt, and are always doing the best they can for our patients and carers. Also, I'd like to thank the partners that we work with, be that local authorities, be that other health trusts, be that the third sector, and also our patients and carers as well. The AMM theme, or the annual members meeting theme, is better together, and it's really about working in partnership. I'd like to look at that from a governor's perspective. For us, I suppose there are 5 main areas that I can think of. You know, we need to represent our members and our population. We need to represent our staff working within the trust. We need to help and work with the councils that we have relationships with. We need to work with the third sector. As well as that, we also need to work with our universities. We have now got university status. So going through those areas, firstly, representing our members and our population, I think the pandemic has meant that it's been very, very difficult for our governors to be able to talk as much as they would like to our members and our population and our patients and our carers. The trust has done everything it can to help and to support us do that. But nevertheless, we need to show an example as a trust and follow the rules and regulations very, very clearly and tightly, which has meant that face-to-face meetings have become really, really difficult. I'd like us to be able to do what we can to talk to our members more frequently in a more joined up way, to make it more about co-production rather than communication. We need to be getting stuff back from our members and our patients so that they can influence the way in which we provide our services. I think the other thing for me is we need to be honest about what it is we can do, but we need to be really clear about what the expectations of services are with the resources that we've got. I'd like to move on now to representing our staff. We have a great team of staff governors. I think reflecting back to the trust, what the staff are feeling is a really, really key area for us. And we need to listen to our staff in the same way as we listen to our members. Thirdly, the local authorities. We need a close working relationship with our local authorities. We need to think about how we interact with social care. We need to think about things like housing and transport. And also in relation to some of the councils, they've got infrastructure that potentially we could make better use of with them. And I think that's a really important area that we need to follow up. The third sector is an area, obviously, I know something about. And I think we need to work with them in a broader way, really in a more partnership way. They've got skills that we don't have. And they've also got a way into listening to local communities. we need to work much closer with them, listen to them, and get them to do the things that they're good at to be able to support and help the trust as well as our patients and carers. Lastly, we have now university status, which is a great thing for the trust, but also we need to think about how we can influence qualifications so that they become more relevant to the jobs that we've got available within the NHS. Another area I'd like to have a quick word about is the ICB, or the Integrated Care Board. I think this is a great opportunity for our services within Hampshire to come together in a really meaningful way. I think it gives us great opportunities to actually work together so that actually we're putting the patient at the centre of all we do, and having constituent parts of people from the Foundation Trust and also from local authorities actually on the board should lead to better discussion and better decision making across the economy. So finally, I'd just like to thank you for coming along tonight. Hope you enjoy the evening, and my very best wishes to all of you and all your families.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Some important messages in there for us to take away in terms of our partnership working, particularly with the third sector. So thank you very much indeed for that. It falls to me now to approve last year's annual members meeting minutes. So people should have them available to them and in front of them. And I'm going to start on page 1 of 6, which just for accuracy to start with. So can people just have a look, and if you've got any issues, raise a hand. So on page 1, for accuracy, thank you. Page 2, for accuracy. Page 3, also for accuracy at this stage. And page 4, the same for page 5. And lastly, page 6. Thank you very much indeed. And the matters arising are all dealt with, so I'm going to take these as an accurate reflection of the minutes of the meeting from last year, held on the 30th of September. So thank you very much. I'd like now to introduce you to Ron Shields, our Chief Executive. Ron's been here now for just over a couple of years. And Ron is going to take us through his thoughts and feelings of the last year and thinking about the future in terms of our closer partnership working. So thank you, Ron, and over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure just to do a brief review of the past year, and we'll start with a short video.
It's been a busy year for us at Southern Health NHS Foundation Trust, and in this video, we're going to take a look back at the last few months. During the 2021 to 2022 financial year, our total income was £402 million. And with that, we provided care to 208,376 people. All this was across a population of more than 1.5 million people. And our services provided 1,350,608 contacts with patients in the community. In April, we launched a new maternal mental health service to improve access to psychological support for women before, during, and after pregnancy. Downton Abbey star Hugh Bonneville came to Petersfield Hospital in May to open our new staff memorial garden. Hugh returned this year to open the Urgent Treatment Centre, bringing access to a wider range of treatments while supporting the local health system with increased demand. In June, we completed a full redesign of Poppy Ward at Gosport War Memorial Hospital and put the final touches on a £2.6 million renovation project in the acute mental health wards at Parklands Hospital. July saw the launch of a new, clearer and more accessible trust website, developed alongside service users, families and carers. Our research team won a Clinical Research Network Award for outstanding contribution to COVID-19 research, and a Team Award for the National Institute of Health Research. Our research into COVID-19 has also been used by the World Health Organization. During August, the 111 Mental Health Triage Team and Technology Team were both shortlisted at the HSJ Awards, and our Specialist Heart Failure Team was also shortlisted for a Nursing Times Award. The Stage 2 Independent Investigation Report, Right First Time, was published in September. The report acknowledged progress we've made and provided recommendations for changes we are putting in place. In November, we celebrated the diversity of our staff, patients, and communities by marking Black History Month, supporting veterans, and attending local Pride events. As part of our COVID-19 vaccination program, our teams delivered the booster vaccine to over 4,000 people who couldn't leave their home, gave over 51,000 12 to 15-year-olds their first vaccinations, and supported almost 5,000 people with learning disabilities to access all 3 COVID-19 vaccinations. We also launched a support hub in December for health and care workers whose mental health have been affected by working during the pandemic. In January 2022, we launched the Carer and Patient Support Hub, helping people find support, advice, or signposting information to fit their needs. Our multi-agency stalking project is one of only 4 in the UK and featured in a 2-part BBC documentary that aired in January and was presented by Stacey Dooley. An inspection in February led to our CQC rating to drop from good to requires improvement due to challenges with staffing levels and the impact of the pandemic. We have responded by prioritizing recruitment and retention. We are now a University Hospital Trust, a national status which reflects our significant involvement in research, our work with the University of Southampton, and our commitment to providing excellent clinical education. We are hugely thankful for the people who use our services, their carers and families, and everyone who has given their time and expertise to share their feedback and help deliver our services. We are also grateful to our incredible staff for everything they do in providing exceptional care to the communities we serve.
I'm sure you'll agree that some really good highlights from the last year. And if you look to the full annual report, you'll see many more examples of what the staff and our partners in this organisation have achieved during the last year. I'll just say a few words about the year in summary and also reflect on the year that we're now in. It has, as the chair said very, very clearly, been a challenging year for us as an organisation, for us as an NHS. The impact of COVID, I don't think, can be understated in terms of the huge task that we had just to keep the people who use our services safe, and also the impact that it's had on our staff, who have actually achieved a miraculous job in keeping the people in our care safe at all times and managing around all of the restrictions that COVID brings into place. We also contributed in a major way to the vaccination programme and looking after the most vulnerable people who are living in the community and at home. Whilst at the same time, the demand for our mental health services and our community services is absolutely unrelenting. And we were, during all of this last year, playing an ever increasingly important role in supporting the local general hospitals, the 3 local general hospitals who have also had unprecedented demand. It's almost as though winter hasn't gone away in terms of the demand for services and the numbers of people who are turning up at the emergency departments. We as a trust play our role in each of the 3 major hospitals and support them so that we can ensure that the population of Hampshire receives the services that they need and that it's actually safe at all times. So a huge challenge there. Our biggest challenge is unquestionably in staffing. That is reflected in the report from the Care Quality Commission, in that the staffing levels that we've been able to sustain have been challenging throughout the year. The reality is that we have too many vacancies. We are too reliant upon agency staffing. And that's why that we're so focused on the importance of our people plan during this year. Staff in the organisation have done a phenomenal job in the most difficult of circumstances, and often where actually our staffing levels have been challenged, and the CQC were right to highlight those issues for us. We are, through our people plan, determined that we will actually make Southern Health the very best place to work, and that's our top priority. It's the top priority because it's through having the best staff and the best staffing arrangements, best staffing levels, that actually we can guarantee the very best quality of care. So we want Southern Health to be the best place to work, because that's where we will then provide the best quality of care. I'm also pleased to reflect on the partnership working that we have continued to develop during the past year. Our work with carers and all that they do is very much an unsung sort of story within all of the public sector, but certainly within the NHS and here at Southern Health. The carers provide a fabulous support, and we do not always support them in the best way, but I'm really, really pleased that the work that Dawn Buck and her team have been doing over the last year to develop ever better engagement with carers and to go to meet the needs or go closer towards meeting the needs of the carers. But we've also been engaging wider in that sense, and also a very successful engagement event in Romsey. And we will be doing other events in towns around the county over the course of the next year. We can never do enough engagement with service users, with carers and their families, and indeed with local populations. And that's why working in partnership is so important. It can only be a partnership between our staff and everyone else who interfaces with our services. Particularly pleased during this year that we've put a renewed focus on the importance of recovery in mental health, not just in mental health, it's also what we want to see in all of our physical health services as well. But recovery as an approach, we've brought in IMROC, who are actually specialists in this area, to support us all in developing recovery in a way that it's actually integral to everything that we do to support people with mental health issues. So very, very proud of what we've been doing there. We have, at the same time, improved our facilities. We've spent some £20 million on our capital programme this year, £13 million of which was in our wards. Absolutely delighted to see Poppy and Rose wards at Gosport completed, and indeed the thrill that that's provided for the staff and people who use them. There's been a lot of very positive comment about those new facilities in what is quite an old hospital. But also at the same time, we actually upgraded the wards in Basingstoke at the Parklands units. We upgraded Hazel, Juniper, Cherry wards. All were upgraded to the standards that we would all want to experience if we're actually admitted to hospital. So, delighted to see those schemes and many other small schemes that were completed during the course of the year. Just looking forward into this year, it is very pleasing to see the way in which we are contributing to the development of the new NHS architecture in Hampshire and the Isle of Wight through the Integrated Care Board and the Integrated Care Partnership. We're a full partner in the Integrated Care Board and in that partnership, and working with colleagues from the rest of the NHS in primary care and in the other trusts, as well as with general practitioners and working very, very closely with local authority colleagues, including colleagues in the fire and police services. There is, through that partnership, which is emerging and growing from strength to strength, the real potential to have impact on the population of the people we serve, the populations of Hampshire and parts of Hampshire, and to address the inequalities that exist, to address the health inequalities that exist across Hampshire. And that remains a central focus of what we're trying to do. But we've also been working very closely with our colleagues in Solent and the Isle of Wight, together with colleagues who currently provide the CAM services who are based from Sussex, and working in a partnership board, a mental health partnership board, that is also making, I think, really, really good plans for the future, plans that will improve the way in which we deliver mental health services across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. So absolutely looking forward to moving to the next stage, which is actually, we are at the moment in discussions to look to bring the services from Sussex Partnership, which are the CAM services, the services for our young people, together with the services that are provided on the Isle of Wight, and all of those services that are provided by our colleagues in the Solent Trust, together with the services of Southern Health, to actually bring about a single provider for all of the community and mental health services across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. And there's great enthusiasm across our organisations to bring that about. We'll be able to move away from some of the fractures that there are in the way in which services are organised. The fact that there are 4 or 5 providers for young people's mental health service just makes it more difficult for our frontline staff to do their job. So we are very enthusiastic that by the 1st of April 2024, we look to bring that new organisation into being, and that will be a partnership of all of those mental health and community services. And that's something which I think is really, really positive for our future. It will be another challenging year. COVID hasn't gone away. We're expecting and anticipating and planning for a difficult winter. Some say it will be our most difficult winter, but we are gearing up for that. And the importance of those partnerships across health and care and with all of our other partners are ever more important. The vaccination programme, we will again play our part in making sure that our staff and that our patients are safe, but we will also be working to make sure that anyone who needs care gets it. So it will be a difficult winter, but actually working with people, supporting people in their own well-being is at the heart of what we do. So that's a very brief overview of where we are in this, or where we have been in this past year and where we are this year looking to the future. I'm confident in terms of this organisation and what we're doing, and I'm incredibly proud of what the staff and the partners of this organisation do to support the people of Hampshire and the Isle of Wight to have the best possible health and care that they can.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you very much indeed. Some really important messages in there for us, looking back and looking forward. One of the parts of the annual members meeting is that we receive a finance report from our finance director, and Paula Anderson, who is our Chief Finance Officer, will be presenting, I think by way of a video, our finance report for the year 21-22. So over to you, Paula.
Hello, my name is Paula Anderson. I'm Finance Director and Deputy Chief Exec in the Trust, and it's my great privilege to talk to you today about the financial position of the Trust during 2021-22. If I think back to the beginning of that financial year, we were only 4 months into the vaccination programme, which had started in December 2020. It was really hard in the March and April at the beginning of the year to understand quite how it would play out, both for services, our ability to respond to COVID, what COVID would mean during that year. Would we be facing more lockdowns? What would our staff sickness be like? So quite a difficult year to plan through. I'm going to take you through some of the detail now and try and make sure that I'm able to bring it to life with information about how the money we spent changed services and changed people's lives. Thank you. So when we look at the detail of the financial position during 21-22, we were clearly working with changed financial arrangements that had been determined by NHS England. This gave more flexibility for organisations. It tried to secure ensuring that they had strong cash facilities and that there were no significant risks that sat outside of the plans. Also, there was an increased emphasis on partnership working and system working to make sure that as a system we were able to live within the financial envelope. If we look at the next slide, this just talks about the clear headlines from the revenue position during 21-22, where we were able to break even. There was a technical deficit when you take account of non-cash items such as impairments, but from the perspective of our financial controls with NHS England and the local ICS, we were able to break even. Our total income for the year was just under 402 million, and our spend was a similar value, 73% of which related to staff costs and 11% for premises. We're also able to end the year with a relatively strong cash position, which just means that in the future we've got sufficient cash reserves to spend on capital schemes, which are the bigger financial schemes that go across more than 1 year. The following slide just tries to be clear around some of the areas that are sometimes more sensitive. So in previous years, some of you will be aware we've needed to spend a lot of money on mental health beds that are outside of our internal units. This year we spent 7.6 million on those, but that was all done in a very managed way within relationships that we have with 2 local providers to ensure that we had sufficient capacity in place. Over the course of the year, we were able to spend capital funds on providing new ward areas within the trust, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to capital. We also spent money, an increased amount of money on agency staffing. This is, looking back, this would seem like an obvious thing we needed to do. We needed new capacity to support COVID and to support our patients. Obviously, we have a vacancy level. We also had absence levels linked to COVID, but also general sickness levels. And we saw increasing acuity within our units that required additional staffing. I can confirm that we didn't make any compensation payments for loss of office, and we didn't make any payments to directors that were not on the payroll. We also really limited the amount we paid external consultants. These are things in the area that have had visibility and people have raised concerns about, and it's good to be able to report all 3 of those answers very positively. In addition, we accrued, which means we provided for the cost of untaken annual leave, which was estimated at £5 million by the year end. Obviously, staff found it difficult to take time off, partly because of wanting to continue to support services, but also their own personal positions and whether they wanted to be on leave during the year. We did deliver efficiency requirements. Although the national ask was fairly limited on that, we did manage to deliver 6.8 million, some of which was non-recurrent, and we faced dealing with that in the new financial year. We continue to have good governance around urgent procurement requirements, and we didn't step down any of our normal financial controls. So those are the numbers that I've just taken you through, which can sound a little dry, can't they? They're important, but they don't bring it to life. I'm going to talk about our capital spend now, and we have a detailed slide on this. We had quite a significant capital programme last year, 20.6 million. A significant chunk of which was spent on premises, as will be no surprise. Just to understand what that funding went towards, we were able to open a new ward at Alton Community Hospital, which has opened during this current year and will be of significant support during the winter for our patients and also for our local hospitals in ensuring that patients can be in an appropriate setting. There's a lot of work done within our mental health wards, some of which was improving ward environments, such as it was the 2nd year of our dormitory reduction and ensuite provision programme. We spent over 5 million, and that included areas within Gosport and Melbury Lodge, and also our Parkland site. We were able to create a new ward environment in Antelope House, which in the future will provide female PICU support for mental health patients. We also made changes to Lee House and Bluebird, both services who support young people. We also ensured that we did important maintenance and addressed any urgent issues for fire safety or ligature reduction improvements. Another significant programmes were the improvements to our technology. This obviously includes replacing hardware and the technical systems that sit behind our everyday activities. But also we were trying to make sure that we did the work that clinicians needed us to do to ensure that they were able to work well digitally and where that supports frontline care. but also helps us support patients in a more digital, virtual way, which means we can support more people, perhaps without them needing to come into a hospital bed or having other changes to their lives. We also supported staff on hybrid working, and that will continue to be a priority as we move forward. Medical equipment was another important area. We opened our new MRI scanner during the year. And we also were able to purchase 4 new X-ray machines for the South West system, as well as other medical items that were numerous. Our capital availability, so the way that we pay for capital is linked to local ICS controls on how much can be spent by each organisation. But we also bid for further funding, and last year we were very successful in bidding for new money that enabled us to prioritise some of the things that I've just talked about. You'll see from the next slide that our cash balances are really healthy. So our closing cash balance was 58.6 million, which is generally the equivalent of about 58 days of operating cash. The cash balance is really important because it helps us support capital expenditure in future years and ensures that we don't have cash flow issues which would prevent us paying local suppliers. So as you can see, with 58 days of operating cash, we have a fair amount of flexibility there. The final slide that relates to 21-22 relates to our charity Bright Away. We were able to gain significant grants from NHS Charities Together and our local leagues of friends at various locations, and for that we are exceedingly grateful. Fundraising activities were also great from our staff, such as Christmas raffle and other more personal challenges such as skydiving and marathons and all those things that sound quite frankly exhausting. We made some great grants to people, and some of that is highlighted in this slide, but things like the Christmas box for patients and clients was really important. We were also able to arrange staff wellbeing boxes and events or specialised training, which were some of the things we did to try and say thank you to staff and teams for the work that they're doing. Improving gardens and outside spaces is really important, particularly for patients in our ward areas where they can be in hospital for an extended stay. Then it's really important they have somewhere nice to go and to be outside, and makes quite a difference to the therapeutic benefit of their stay in hospital. The final slide looks at the financial outlook for 22-23. We've submitted an operating plan which demonstrates a break-even plan. We did this consistent with the national requirements, which included guidance around investment in mental health, the priorities of the national team, which are numerous, but include ensuring that we deliver collectively on the elective recovery. So that's people that need to have operations, that are part of planned care and whose waits have been extended because of COVID. We play a role in that within some of our services and took that into account when we planned for the year. In addition, that we knew that there was uncertainty around the COVID impact for 22-23 and how that would impact on both the summer and winter. And as we'll all be aware, there were numerous issues with it over the summer, and we're now about to go into a winter. Vaccinations will remain important, and we will continue to play the role that we need to in delivering that, both with staff and our patients. Inflationary pressures were a massive concern at the beginning of the year and continue to be a concern. We're clearly right now waiting on the outcome of the utilities risk, the risk to the cost of utilities, and that will have a significant impact. The pay award has just been confirmed, and we know that that is likely to leave a pressure within our local services in terms of the financial affordability. We've got another significant capital investment plan. At the moment, that sits at 12.8 million, but will increase over the year as we bid for national funding. We'll continue to do the work around our inpatient units, important work around maintenance, and also our clinical IT systems. So it is another challenging year ahead of us. I know I say that every year, but we continue to have ambitious plans for our services and for our patients, and quality improvement, making the best use of our resources. So Without doubt, some really tough challenges for us. I know that our teams always come together and perform the best they can despite the stressful circumstances. And for that, I'm really, really grateful. Finally, I suppose this is my opportunity to say thank you. Thanks to everyone at Southern who helps us look after the money, as well as supporting services and our patients and looking after people as well as we can. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Paula. As always, you provide a very detailed presentation for us at the annual members meeting of a very complex subject in a very simple way so that people can understand it. So thank you very much for that. Moving on, we will now hear from our external auditor who's with us today, Thomas Wilkins from Ernst & Young. And Thomas will be taking us through the report that they have provided for us this evening.
Thank you, Lynn. There should be some slides that accompany me as well. Before we start, I just wanted to provide some apologies. So Helen Thompson is unfortunately unable to join us this evening. She's had some technical issues and therefore sends her apologies. So just in terms of who we are, so we're Ernst & Young, we're the external auditors. We tend to look at the financial statements. If you want to just move on to the next slide briefly. So our role focuses on expressing an opinion on the financial statements, but we also look at some other areas. We look at the remuneration report, we look at the staff report, and we also look at the consistency of other information that's published with the Trust's financial statements. So that would include things such as the annual report. There's also a number of areas where we're required to report by exception as well. So that's where things might not be consistent with our understanding or expectations, or where we have other concerns that we want to raise. Just next slide, please. So the key piece of work that we do is to provide an opinion on the Trust financial statements. At this meeting, we're talking about the 2021-22 financial statements. As part of our planning of the audit, we look to identify the areas within the financial statements where we think there may be material fraud, or it's possible that material fraud may occur. For this year, we identified 3 areas. So the first of those is where management might look to override the controls that are set out within the organisation. The second is where management might attempt to manipulate the financial performance of the trust to achieve a desired outcome. And then the third is where they may capitalise some expenditure, and that's effectively to write the cost of that expenditure off over a number of years. We also identified a number of what we call significant risks. So these are where we think there is a significant risk of material misstatement, either arising because something is complicated or because it involves a significant amount of judgment. The 2 areas that we identified for this year are the valuation of the Trust's land and buildings, or its local improvement finance trust, and that's the funding of one of the Trust's assets. And in accordance with international standards of auditing, we also focused some work in and around going concern. In addition to that, we also tested all the material balances within the financial statements, but those are the key areas of focus for the audit. I'm happy to say that we completed a detailed work program in each of those areas, and we had no evidence of any material misstatement and no evidence of fraud occurring within the financial statements. And we issued a clean audit opinion with no matters to raise. Next slide, please. So we also do some work around value for money. We're required to report by exception around 3 criteria. The first of those is the financial sustainability of the trust. The second is around governance, and that talks around the trust's ability to manage risk and its ability to make informed decisions using the information available to it. And finally, it's around improving economy, efficiency, and effectiveness for the trust. And that's looking to, again, use information to improve the services the trust provides and improve the decisions that it makes. So again, we undertook a detailed piece of work in each of those areas, and we were happy to say that there was nothing to report within our with our reporting requirements. Just next slide, please. So just in terms of the value for money, in addition to reporting by exception, we also issue a detailed commentary, which goes into those 3 key areas, and then a number of sub-questions within each one of them. That commentary is available within our auditor's annual report, and that should be published on the Trust's website. So following the audit, as I mentioned, we issued a clean bill of health in terms of the financial statements. We had no matters to report either within the financial statements themselves or within the value for money conclusion. As it was our first year of the audit for the trust, we had a debrief meeting with the senior finance partners just to understand how the audit went, what we could do better, and look forward to next year to get things lined up and moving in the right direction. That was really helpful. And I think that probably leads me to conclude that we just wanted to say thank you to all the staff at the trust, particularly those within finance that helped us deliver the audit. I think, yeah, as a first year audit, we typically expect them to be quite difficult, but we found everybody to be extremely helpful. So thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much, Thomas. We're now going to move to a slightly different part of the evening where we're going to run a questions and answers session. And this is going to be chaired by Dr. Suba M, who is one of our non-executive directors. And for those of you who were here last year, you'll remember that Suba did a very similar made a very similar contribution last year and kept us all marshalled and in the right place to be able to take and answer questions. So over to you now for a question and answer session.
Thank you, Lynn. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here today. And please put in your questions as we go along, and I will make sure that we read out and ask the execs for their opinion. So we haven't had anything yet, but I had a quick question for Paul Draycott. So based on the fact that all of the things that we've shared, one of the key challenges that we've all noticed is workforce. And as our Chief People Officer, my question to you is, are you optimistic about this moving into the next year in terms of the challenges that we face with workforce? And what specifically are you looking forward to?
Thanks, Suba, for letting me open up and start off. Optimism. I think it's a really tough time at the moment across the whole of the NHS. We see it with all the services. I think 132,000 vacancies reported last month across the NHS. However, I think as an organisation, we have a real focus on our people, and I'm trying to ensure that we keep that focus on making this a great place to work, on it being a great experience for people on a day-to-day basis, to be flexible, to give people and engage people in the way that will help them. Ron talked earlier about the people plan and our desire to deliver that, and also talked about the whole living well and recovery model, which again rolls out to our people as well. That's those sort of priorities of honesty, of belonging, and of providing hope, are really important for our people as well. So I think cautious optimism, because I think we've got a real desire across the organisation, and I suppose in terms of looking forward to, I think as Ron talked about in his section, again, the people plan, getting that up and running. We've got lots of things happening, getting everybody engaged and excited around the people plan. I think our approach to engagement, we've started a whole approach to engagement, how we don't just talk to our people about what would you like, but actually we involve people, we properly co-produce with people to make this a really great experience. So it's all of our people involved in making this a great place to work, addressing the challenges that we undoubtedly have, and doing that in a way that, that is, it just feels for people as though they're listened to and they've got a voice, and that voice makes a difference. And I guess the last bit, I think, is continuing our journey of inclusion and belonging, building on that foundation that we've put in place. We've seen today at People Committee that, we've got improved workforce race equality standard scores again, and I think making sure we keep building that on that year on year to make sure that this is a great place for everybody to work, that everybody feels a sense of belonging, everybody feels included and can give their authentic best in the organisation to deliver great services for our people in our communities. I think, yeah, those are the things I'm optimistic about.
I love that. Thank you, Paul. Again, the phrase cautious optimism, we'll hold on to that, but definitely plenty to look forward to. On that note, I was going to ask Ron, if I may, what your views are in terms of the top 3 challenges or opportunities, you know, if you want to be continuing on this optimistic path, that you are thinking about with regards to the trust going forward. And if possible, could you perhaps expand on the up and coming possible merger, the way that we are working with our partners?
Okay, thank you, Suba. I think first challenge is that of our people and having enough people with the right skills in the right place all of the time. But you know, that challenge is what underpins our ability to deliver care. But it also underpins, I think, the second challenge. Winter is going to be very, very challenging for the whole of health and care. And particularly when we put it into the context of just how difficult things are at the moment in terms of cost of living, energy costs, and so on. The expectation is people, for example, will not be keeping themselves warm. That will actually generate more demand in winter. So winter is going to be a real challenge to us on top of the challenges that we have in having the right workforce to meet the needs of the people that we serve. The third one is a longer term one, but it's referenced earlier in terms of our work with carers and with service users themselves. And that's how we support individuals, how we support communities to actually have to own their health and to be able to actually develop their very best health and to actually support them in their well-being. And that requires us to change in that respect. It can't just be about us delivering services. It's got to be us genuinely working in partnership in different ways with people so that people can support themselves as far as they can in their own health. And that's something that we have to be promoting. But at the same time, and we haven't in the NHS got the complete answer to this, addressing inequalities, and the inequalities in health are profound across all of the populations that we serve and who take services from this trust. People with long-term mental health conditions or learning disabilities have life expectancies that are much reduced through inequalities. There are inequalities that we have to be in the lead of trying to address. So those would be the 3 for me, Suba. You asked about the coming together of our services with Solent and with Sussex and with the services that are provided on the Isle of Wight. The opportunities from that, I think, are really, really significant. So just actually looking at having single models of care across the county. At the moment, I mentioned earlier that we have 4 or 5 separate services for young people's mental health. That's replicated in physical health and mental health services. We actually have separate teams for diabetes. We have separate health visiting teams. We actually work alongside each other in some places, but staff are working for a different organisation and having to actually make judgments about whether or not a person is referred to a bed, for example, that is managed by our colleagues in Solent, or whether they're managed and they go towards a bed which is in Southern Health. But we'll be able to also look at the population of Hampshire as a whole, but within that, how then we can better address the resources, the significant resources that we have to supporting people in different communities and trying to address some of those inequality issues.
Thank you, Ron. Again, I think very great excitement with regards to what we can do together, starting with the people that we are serving. So you'll be glad to know the next question is actually for Paula. Thank you for that lovely video, but this time around, Paula A, we would like to find out a little bit more about finance. As a question from Suzanne, do you think we will be able to balance the books next year? Are we getting enough increased funding in terms of energy cost, etc.? Very pertinent question, Paula A.
Yeah, thanks, Suzanne. So yes, this year is challenging, but at the moment we are cautiously optimistic we will be able to manage. There are pressures, you're right. We've been looking at the utilities bills and it's not entirely clear yet how that will work through for the NHS from sort of October onwards. but we've estimated at the moment that there's probably about a 2.6 million risk around non-pay, including utilities, because it's not just our own gas and electricity, is it? It's also the fact that our suppliers' costs are going up, and therefore all of our cost base starts to increase. We've got pressure. We were talking earlier about our increased use of agency staff, and that has a premium attached to it in terms of a financial cost. And at the moment, the balance on that is that it's costing us more clearly than the vacancies, even though we're not able to recruit temporary staffing into all vacancies. So without doubt, there are challenges. What we're trying to do at the moment is all the things you'd expect us to. So appropriate use of agency will need to continue, and just making sure that we're not paying too much for shifts, or we're not paying slightly too many people. We're trying to make sure that we have a reduction in our utilities. So we've had some reduced usage, so that might help us bring those cost pressures down. And we're working with all of our teams to develop sort of meaningful savings programs, so that we're not impacting quality, and we always do a really thorough test on that. I think this year, therefore, is possible. It's hard to tell at the moment because there are a lot of pressures out there. We're at 2 million deficit right now, but I'm really hoping we'll be able to recover that. I think the year after, so 23-24, is going to be tricky for people, and we will have to do the best we can to get ready for that and prepare for that. But thank you for that question. It is something everybody's managing every day.
Thank you, Paula. Again, really, really important for us to be thinking about it and having a plan of action. I've got another question that is directed to Paula H, actually. What can Southern Health do to reach into schools, colleges, faith communities, other community groups to promote working in and with the NHS? Before you answer this, Paula H, I just wanted to say, keep those questions coming in. We've got about 2 minutes for this section, and then I'll hand it back to Lynn because we still have a packed agenda to go through. So after this question, back to some more stuff, and then we'll come back to the rest of the questions. So Paula Hull.
Thanks, Suba. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now.
Thank you. Yes, so some of the work that we've been doing in relation to schools and colleges have very much been about going in to talk to the young people there about the careers that we have in the NHS. So really great to see some of our nursing colleagues and allied health professions, physios and other professionals who've gone into the school or the college in their uniform, and they've been able to sit down and talk to the young people in there about the amazing careers that we have. And myself as a nurse for 33 years, although it's a challenging career, it's an absolutely incredible career, and we've been really, really promoting that in this area to really enable people to see the great education that they can get, and the different opportunities that they have to work in communities and inpatient settings and all sorts of different areas. So we've been doing a lot actually to talk to school children who are doing their T-levels and who want to do some work experience, and we're opening up our doors and trying to make our processes and systems really easy. It used to be that teams would say, you make it quite difficult for us to enable people to come and to do work experience with us. Let's make it safe, but make it easier for people. So we're very much working towards celebrating careers in the NHS and enabling young people to understand the benefits. In terms of voluntary sector, we've also done a lot of work this year, Dawn Buck and her team, to make it much easier for us to use some of our money, some of our NHS funded money and some of our charity money to support local voluntary sector who have at this time, post-COVID time, have really struggled, some of them, particularly small voluntary sector organisations in the community who struggled with funding and staffing. So we've worked with some organisations such as Touch Network to bring people to work alongside us in partnership who better understand some of the delivery of services than we do, people with experience of using the services, carers, family members. And we've had some fantastic examples of where voluntary sector organisations and charities such as Touch Network and Unlock brings different expertise, you know, bring different experiences and help us to deliver better services, and in some cases deliver on our behalf. And we know that they often do a better job than us. They have really, really great focus on things that are very important to people and that matter. So we couldn't deliver our services without the incredible partnerships that we've got with voluntary sector in our communities, and we hope to get more. So it's a real plea for them to reach out to us because we really want to support them.
Thank you, Paula. Again, really brings home all of the different people who are supporting us to deliver the best care that we can for our communities. So we've got a bit more time to carry on the questions. So I've got another question. This one is directed to Paul Draycott. So this is from Fran, who's saying, how are you tackling your priorities of recruitment and retention? What are Southern Health's unique draws for trained staff and psychiatrists, OTs, etc.? So again, you might want to take that to yourself, Paul, or we could split that part one, the kind of recruitment one with you, and perhaps the draw for psychiatrists, perhaps to Steve.
Yeah, thanks, Sue. Yeah, I mean, I think we're doing an awful lot. If you know, unsurprisingly, it's the whole focus of what we're trying to do as an organisation in terms of both recruit and retain, and certainly a lot of attention at the moment on retention, you know, and how we can maintain ourselves as a great employer and keep people in the organisation. You know, for the first time, really, we've got challenges from outside of the healthcare sector for our people. You know, there is a real challenge with you know, the cost of living crisis, and you know, some of our lower paid staff can literally go into you know, supermarket and earn £2, £2.50, £3 an hour more, and get discounts on the shopping and so on, rather than working in the NHS as we sort of work to the National Agenda for Change pay framework. So it's a real challenge about how we keep people, and I think our big challenge is to make sure that we have consistency in our policies and practices. Again, with something we were talking about earlier, and you know, making sure that people have the flexibility that they want, have the career progression that they want, that it's an inclusive place to work, that it's great. You know, it can be fun at times. We know it's challenging, but actually we need some fun in the workplace as well, to make sure that people get those, you know, that feel involved and have a say in their workplace, you know, are well led, feel part of a great team where there's good structure and people are clear about what's expected of them and how they work towards it. So I think getting those things in place, and I don't think many places, it's not 100% unique, but you know, the best places to work, that's what we have, and I think we have that in pockets across the organisation. Our big challenge is making sure that we do that consistently across the trust. I know you've talked there about OTs and nurses and psychiatrists. I mean, Steve, you probably be helpful for you to come in on the psychiatrists. I know you've done a huge amount with your team on that.
So thank you, Paul. I think it's the same for all staff. On a simple level, it is simple that we've got to make staff happy. And if people are happy, they stay, and they'll attract other people to come and work with them. So the question is, how do we make people happy? Now, unfortunately, there's not one answer that sits to everyone. So we have to ask everyone individually, what makes you happy? When were you last happy? And how can we make you happy more often? So I don't think we've got a unique selling point per se. We've got to have lots of different answers, and they've got to be specific to the people that we're talking to. Common themes that do come out, though, there's a number of reasons why people work for the NHS, and that's normally because they care. They work in a caring profession because they care about people. So we've got to give them the opportunities and the right tools and equipment to care. Caring does not mean spending hours writing medical reports or putting lots of information into a computer. So we've got to make sure that we concentrate on giving them the tools and the time to do the job that they want to do, which for most people is caring. As Paul alludes to, there's other things that people want. People want to develop, they need career progression, and we can give that. They may want some form of hybrid role. They might want to be a carer sometime in the week, but then maybe do some research. And obviously, as you've heard a couple of times tonight, I've got university status, which means we're now on the national map. So if people want to go to do research, we're also one of the main trusts for education. And if you talk to the educational bodies, you know, every year we do really well with reports from our trainees about the environment we create within Southern Health to really promote people's education. I think we also need to think about family. We do have individuals, but we also have families. And if someone wants to come to work for Southern Health, we need to sort of look at what we can do to support their whole family. Maybe support them to get onto the housing market locally, maybe direct them to the good schools. Maybe they've got a significant other and we can then work with them to get them a job, not necessarily within Southern, although we're always open-minded to that. But if they want to work at a local school or somewhere else, we've got to open the doors for them to make the whole transition for the whole family to come to Hampshire and work for Southern as easy as possible. So I guess the thing with all of this is lots of work that we're doing. Our main thing is to keep listening, asking people where they're happy, and keep, you know, searching for what we can do to make you happy more often.
Thank you, Steve. That's great, right? Let's try and do that. Then also, actually, one of the things I would say is that this is personalized. We're always learning. And if anybody out there wants to join us, please do sign up, you know, whoever's listening to this call. And you are the best advocate for us as well. So please do pass on what you've learned and heard today to anybody else who's interested in joining us. Got one last question, and that, Paul Draycott, this is going to be directed to you. It's lots of people interested in what you're thinking today, this evening. So the question is, what work is being carried out to engage partners in the third sector? As we've mentioned, you know, we've talked about partnership working a lot today. So this is specific with the third sector.
Well, I think Paula H may want to come in as well. And I think Paul has outlined a lot of what we're trying to do, and in terms of the work that Dominic is doing with his team and some of the grants that we're putting into the third sector. I think we need to spend more time, I think, investing in the way that we work with the third sector, not seeing the third sector as a small partner, but actually, you know, properly co-producing and understanding the real unique benefits that the third sector bring to delivery of care, or to delivery of services within the whole of the system. And I suppose, you know, at the moment we've worked with Drop the Mask on this, but we work with Drop the Mask on a number of different areas, and you know, and it's really recognising what the unique contribution they can make as opposed to ours, and doing that as an equal partnership, really looking at the social value in what we do and how we measure that social value in those partnerships, and how we, you know, how that we recognise, you know, how when we have a specific role that we need to play, how those different groups can really make a difference to that aim. So, you know, when we're talking about engagement of some of the, you know, the communities that we find hard to reach, you know, their voices are there, we just don't hear them well enough, we don't listen to them well enough. You know, some of our third sector partners have amazing ways into those communities, and working with them in a far more, you know, a fundamentally different way of equal partnership, of them being the lead partner in some instances, you know, I think is where we want to go to, and are starting to go to.
Thank you, Paul. Paula Hull, did you want to add anything to that?
I was going to give a plug for the Patient Insight Involvement and Partnership report. Please do go to our website and find it. It's Dawn Buck and her team, and Dominic is our community development lead. It's packed full of the places that we are reaching out to in terms of the Mellor Festival, the New Forest Show, the Dementia Festival in Petersfield, and in St Denny's Mental Health Awareness Day that some of you will have been to as well. So lots and lots of events that we're trying to reach out to, trying to really get into our communities and listen to them and get involved with them. So have a look on the website and please do let us know if there are any other organisations that you want us to get involved with at your local community.
Thank you, Paula H. Well-placed plug. So thank you for that. There are no more questions at the moment. So with that, thank you for all the people who have asked questions. Hopefully you've got a really good rounded answer from our exec. Thank you to each of these exec to provide us with the well thought out answers. And I'm going to hand you over to Lynn.